You ever think about quitting?
It's the combat of life hammering the snot out of you.
Well, stand by, dig in deep, and get ready to get fired up with us.
Welcome to the Team Never Quit podcast, the #1 podcast that inspires you to fight on. I'm your host, David Rut Rutherford, here with Mr. Never Quit himself, Marcus Luttrell.
Our mission is to help you embrace the suck of life, to teach you the values of working your ass off, and to interview the most hard-charging people on planet Earth.
We know life is hard. It's time for you to suck it up, Buttercup, and let us teach you to persevere in every environment imaginable by sharing real-world lessons learned by those who never quit. That's right. It's time, Marcus, for us to help them defeat the negative insurgency in their lives.
You fire me up. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Let's roll.
Let's roll.
Marcus. You know what fires me up? You want to hear it?
Yes.
What fires me up is when we get a badass woman on the show.
That fires me up all the time.
A badass woman?
Yep, fires me up all the time.
Well, I mean,
I'm married to one, dude, so. You're right. She hit. Yeah.
I mean, Dana is an incredible person. She is one of the top commentators in the country. She's passionate. She's intelligent. I mean, it's just to have her coming on today, man. That gets me fired up.
Right.
And if you're listening right now and you're here, you're back because you're becoming a dedicated loyalist to the TNQ podcast, Marcus and I want to thank you. If you want to know more about why we're doing this, what our mission is, please visit our website at tnqpodcast.com. If you really get fired up, go to our teamneverquit.com, go to the merchandise, get some t-shirts, give them to your friends, join the Team Never Quit. If you need a speaker that's going to get your organization fired up in the new year or whenever, go to our Team Never Quit speakers. They're all vetted and squared away because this is what we believe in. I mean, this is why Marcus is out there creating it. This is why we're together on the show, is to expose people around the world to that never quit mindset. And today, we got a doozy because Dana is filled with that never quit, isn't she, bud?
Absolutely, man. And the perspectives, the unique perspectives, and everything that she had been through and what she's accomplished. So I'm looking forward to it, man.
But before we do that, guess what the wizard gave us, bud? That's debatable segment. So that's what we're gonna do. I'm ready. You're ready?
I'm ready.
All right, wizard, send the first one at us.
Gentlemen, welcome to That's Debatable. 30 seconds on the clock. Question number 1. Which superpower is more powerful? Mind reading versus invisibility.
That's easy, dude. That's easy. If I go clear on you, you're done, dude. You can't, because you can't see me, you can't do nothing.
I can read your mind. I don't have to see you to read your mind. If I can feel that presence, if I can look,
You just know I'm right there, don't you?
Yeah, I can feel it in your mind.
Now,
You're just making your outward disappear, kind of like the Predator.
But the energy's
Camouflage.
still there, right?
Energy's still there. It can't be destroyed.
And you'll be.
Concept.
What if I can train my mind
That's
to
not
go
part of it.
blank?
Well, then you would have achieved Zen, my brother, and had the answer to what most people are looking for. If you can make your mind go blank.
All right, I think you got that one pretty good.
Question number 2. Hans Landa, the Nazi inspector in Inglourious Bastards, versus Hans Gruber, Die Hard.
I got you on this one, dude.
You do, man.
Hans Gruber was mean. But
He was a badass, but Landa, dude.
My dude was
That's
awesome.
hardcore,
When he says,
I don't want to do any
May I have a cup of milk?
Dude. I hadn't thought about that movie in a while.
Inglourious Bastards?
Man, he did a great. He should have got an Academy Award for that.
Oh, it's one of the best written movies ever. I mean, I watch that thing anytime I see it coming on. You know what I mean? All right, so
Anybody go toe to toe with Bruce though? I mean, we're talking about John McClane. John McClane's a badass, right?
I'm still not gonna go there, dude, because he was kind of a wuss at the end, Hans Gruber. You know, he couldn't fight. He wasn't that tough.
Dunked out of a window.
Yeah, my dude. What I loved about my dude was
he's still alive. That's how badass he is.
That's
he's
how
still
badass
rolling hard.
he was. Such a dirty dealer. He's still alive.
Got the stick on his forehead, right? Yeah, but
All right, I'm going to tell myself I won that one.
Question number 3. iPhone versus Android. Go.
Yours blow up and harm people. There's
Brother, you can't even go on a plane with mine. That's how vicious mine is. On top of that, my screen quality's better. I got a little stylus you can write with. I mean, my thing is the latest technology, not only in software, hardware, but also killware. So beat that with your little iPhone.
I think your vicious tendencies are gonna, anybody who can't get away from their phone in the amount of time it takes for it to blow up, travelers, anybody on vacation, anybody who gets in a car, train, goes outside, interacts with anybody in the public, probably gonna not want to have your phone. They're gonna want to have mine because it doesn't blow up.
There is a
coolness about
a phone that blows up.
Like Navy SEALs should carry it, spies, in case it's, you need to leave it somewhere or whatever. I get that.
Turn
part
it on and there.
Yeah, that part of me digs that, man, and I'm with you on that. But I'm just thinking in the overall,
greater
the holidays, because we got with the hoverboards that blow up, right? You need your Android. Are those made by the same company?
I don't know, but it's sad that a company in 2016 can't make a phone that doesn't blow up.
Right.
But I know I'm going against my argument, but I'm sticking to it.
Question number 4. Which condition is worse? Insomnia versus narcolepsy.
I tell you what I do. Narcolepsy's honest because I'll just be full tilt and all of a sudden I'll just go down. You know what I mean? Insomnia, man, I got to stay up all day long, dude. I can't go to sleep. I can't do nothing. It's ridiculous, bro.
Have you ever met anybody with narcolepsy?
No.
Me neither.
Like real? No, not real.
I've had
time.
insomnia, so have you.
Yeah, nonstop.
I mean, thank God. I mean, look at what I got in front of me right here, right? Computers. Insomniacs have stuff to do now. I mean, it's not just suffering in the middle of the night, staring up at the ceiling or anything like that. So
But when your brain shuts down and just it says night time,
while you're driving
that's
or anywhere,
be scary,
right?
That's got to be scary. Yeah, so I'm gonna take insomnia all day long on that one. Well, there you have it. There's our segment of That's Debatable.
The whole segment's debatable. Get you.
I hope you enjoyed it. So let's move on. Let's move on to welcoming our guest. Now, if you don't know who this person is, then come out of the hole you're living in because, this woman is amazing. She was with Megyn Kelly through the whole election. She had, she was going big on her own show on Blaze TV. She is a real pioneer of strong women conservatives, pounding their fist for the Second Amendment and all things conservative, man. And I got to tell you, dude, when I first discovered her, I was like, all right, she's a little tough out there, maybe too, But then I was like, man, her facts are dialed in, and I know you know her, right?
Yeah. Spot on, man.
So, what do you say? Without further ado, let's bring on Dana Loesch. Well, now I've been waiting for this show. I'm waiting for this interview, waiting for this incredible person, this woman who I am a massive fan on it because she tells it like it is. And Marcus, we got her. She's on. She's finally here. She's finally with us. And I'm hoping she's actually packing heat on the other end of this line right now. Is that true, Dana? Are you packing heat right now?
It is quite true. Double heat. I mean, why not? It's Texas. Yes, always.
When you get your luggage, they hand it back to you.
They hand you your Louis Vuitton and your 6-shooters.
Here you go, ma'am.
Well,
no, I'm excited to be with you guys.
Well, we appreciate it so much you coming on, and this is such an honor. We're gonna just jump right in. I know you got to get ready to go on air, and we're so privileged that you'd spend some time with us and with our listeners because they're just here to hear an amazing story.
She's better at this than we are.
She's a lot better, dude.
What I'm talking about? So it's always I watch what I say now. Make sure I'm articulating because when I take off, I'm like, man, I hope that made sense.
Well, I tell you, we got a professional on, so it's gonna be good. All right, Dana, the way we roll, the way we jump in, and the way we go big is we got to get your brain warmed up, right? We gotta get that neuroplasticity. Let's stretch it out. I love it. That's what I was looking for. Here comes the Mad Minute. Go, Marcus.
Movie character you'd like to play out in real life.
Movie character I'd like to play out in real life. Oh my gosh, Wyatt Earp from Tombstone.
Awesome.
The whole role, yeah, man, epic. Just Good one. Great answer, right?
I am stunned. I don't even know.
I mean, even the hardest some bitches we've had on here, man, would throw some down, and that's that good one.
Dude, that was awesome. All right. Who is the person that you would love to get drunk with?
Oh my gosh. Oh man. This is a hard one. I don't even know. Oh, this is where I think you guys got me. The person I would most like to get drunk with, I actually think it's my husband.
That's awesome.
That's why you married him.
Right? Because when you're drunk and you acting a fool, it's got to be someone
That's the only man that can handle that.
That's
the only man that can
You know
handle
what you're dealing with, right? When that happens.
I love it.
All right, favorite superhero.
Favorite superhero is, I have to say, I think my favorite superhero is Captain America.
That's awesome.
Brothers.
He's sitting right over here on my shoulder staring at me. Marcus has Spider-Man looking down. I got Captain America right here with me. So
that's awesome.
All right.
I love
All
that.
right. What was the first vehicle you ever owned?
It was a Buick Skyhawk, and it was just about falling apart, and I had a hole in the floorboard, and whenever I would turn left, the horn would honk.
Hey, dude. Do you want to talk about something that teaches humility? If your horn on your car goes off randomly, especially if it's a hard, we drove ours did that too, Dana.
It was really awkward to drive around because everybody thought I was a mad driver, and it was just because there was some wiring, and the fix would have been more expensive than the car itself. It was just a rust bucket, but it was my first car, so I was proud of it.
And now she can't turn left.
It's the scar. I love where your mind works, dude. All right, go for it.
Are we still going?
Yeah, one more.
All right.
One more each.
If you could sing any song as good as the artist who sings it, halftime, Super Bowl, which song would it be?
AC/DC, Back in Black.
Dude, she just dropped that. Like, it didn't even phase her.
That is one of my favorite bands ever.
Have you seen the Hot Matrix scale, the whole unicorn thing?
Which one?
The Hot Matrix scale. And there's the unicorns that exist. Every of these answers just qualifying into the unicorn category. Just so unique. Like Melly's a unicorn. That's why I married her.
Marcus, are you talking to our listeners and Dana Loesch about the unicorn categories right now on air? Because that warms my heart, brother.
The Hot Matrix.
I know what that is. I know what the unicorn category is.
I know. Obviously, I know you. Yeah. Did I go down somewhere we shouldn't?
No, I love it. I'm just going to end it right there on the unicorn.
Do you know what I'm talking about? She does. I don't know if you do.
I love it.
All right. That is the Mad Minute. Thank you, Dana, for tolerating our ridiculousness. But I think everybody's fired up. Everybody's having fun. So we're going to pivot a little bit. As you may or may not know, our listeners come to us because they're facing adversity. They're struggling to get over those obstacles of life. The combat of life is hammering them. The negative insurgency is deep in their soul. And they're coming here to listen to really amazing human beings tell great stories. So if you could, would you share with our listeners your greatest never quit story?
My greatest never quit story, man, there's been some really good ones on your old podcast, so that's going to be kind of tough to top. I'll put it like this. When I was a kid, I was raised by a single mom, and all my family's from the Ozarks. My mom was a single mom. She worked 3 jobs so that we didn't go on government assistance, and during the summers, we had to move up to the city, so it was just me and her. And it was kind of, it's the loneliest place in the world to me is a city, because you can be completely lonely and no one will ever know. But out in the country in some of these small towns, no one ever lets you be alone. That's just
good and bad.
Experience. Even if you want them to, they won't. But I went down and I stayed in the country with my grandparents while my mom went up and worked. And I remember when I was going through high school, I wanted to go to college, and I was really working hard on my grades, making sure I had good grades, but trying to get as many scholarships and all this stuff as I could get. Mm-hmm. And I knew that my mom wouldn't be able to afford to send me to college, so I had to really work hard. And one of the things that I did, I studied classical ballet for 17 years, but I really liked to write, and I really liked to talk with people, and I liked to hear their stories, and I wanted to hear where they came from and what their experiences were. And I got into that listening to my grandpa talk a little bit about World War II. When he was in the VA, I used to go up and visit him when he was real sick in the hospital, and then I would listen to him and all of these other veterans talk about their experiences. And that's if you want to become a really good reporter, you go and you go to a VA and you listen to people talk about their experiences.
Awesome.
And you really refine your skills that way.
Yes, ma'am.
And I just really had a passion for that. And so I started writing about his story and entering all these essay competitions. Any essay competition I could enter, I would do it so that I could try to win and get enough money to go to college. And ultimately, we were able to pay for my way to college by doing that.
Wow.
And it was hard, and I did a lot of homework, but it was worth it. And I just loved that. I loved being able to share those stories and to talk with people and collect those. And even though I do a lot of commentary now, one of my favorite things to do is really like the feature pieces, like the Up in the Old Hotel, Joe Mitchell type stuff.
Cool.
Really listening to people tell their story and sharing that, because there are so many, honestly, guys, some of the most amazing stories, they don't come from the coast. They come from that flyover section. And I love telling those stories. Yep. And I love, hearing about, people share these real life experiences. And so I think that was the hardest thing to do, because while my friends were going out, I was staying home revising draft after draft after draft. Right. Trying to make sure that it was as good as possible before I sent it off, because I didn't want to embarrass myself or embarrass my grandpa, because I was talking about him in a lot of these. And so that's kind of how I ended up. To me, that was one of the harder things that I did, because you really have to put yourself out there, and people are judging you. They're not really judging your story. They're judging how well you can talk about it and how well you tell it, and your writing and your intellect and being able to convey these experiences. And you want to make sure that you're giving these experiences the respect that they deserve by making sure that you are adequately and conveying them in a proper fashion. And so it was tough, but I think it set me up to do what I love later on in life, which is what I'm doing now.
But I love that story, because one, obviously anybody who dances in classically trained ballet, it has dedication and a work ethic. I mean, the first time I ever got exposed to, that, and you must have some ugly feet. Is that true? Are your feet still all?
That is true.
The amount of you're supposed to ask. You're from Florida, man. From Texas, you don't ask. You're not supposed to ask a woman about. That's that weird look on my face over here right now. Dude.
Hear me out. Let me make my point, please.
I just want to say on the record, Dana, I was on this side of the room.
Hear me out. So anybody that can break their toes that many times and still go back for the pain and to be creative physically, then to translate that into mental developmental creativity and cognition is a wild shift. And Dana, did you ever know prior to, did you write poems or sonnets before? Why was it these stories? Was it just that when your grandfather would tell the stories, they would move you so much that moved you to move into this entire different creativity? Because you had to be that inspiration, but that's a dramatic shift. What was it that got you there? Exactly.
It was. I think it's because I really spent a lot of time in between rehearsals, and I didn't have much of a life in high school because we were I was constantly in rehearsal and constantly practicing and all that stuff, and downtime. Whenever I would get writing assignments in school, I always blazed through them, and I would get really good grades, and I just really enjoyed. They were the assignments that I loved doing the most. And I started writing a lot in downtime, just separate from class and all of that. I never thought that would be the thing that would get me in college. That would be my first job. That would actually take me to where I am now. But that's, it did that. And in transitioning, when I was sitting in there, my grandfather, he was on the USS Alabama when he was out with the Civic, and he got exposed to some of the fallout. And that, because of the radiation that hit him, he developed cancer. It wasn't super aggressive, but it was a slow growing cancer. And over 30 or 40 years, he had a number of things removed. But it finally, that's ultimately, even though he was in his 80s, I think the man would have lived, no joke, to be 110 years old. Wow. We used to joke that we used to say, well, if there was ever a nuclear fallout, the things that are going to live afterwards are going to be grandpa, Nokia phones, and cockroaches, because this man, he was this farmer from southern Missouri. He was super tough. He was just so tough. And raised 8 kids and went through some really bad times, and he always powered through. And I think what inspired me the most almost was what he didn't say.
Right.
The information that he skimped on. And I know there were certain things that he really just, there's certain things guys don't talk about. And it was just, it was really amazing to hear the stories. This was the kind of stuff I would never hear from anybody that was in my generation. I would never hear any stories like the stories that he and these other guys were telling. And I just found it so unbelievably inspiring. And I kept thinking more people should hear about this, because there are so many lessons in just some of the simple stories that he would tell. And after my grandpa passed away, one of the things that we did, we went out to Pearl Harbor, and I felt like I was chasing him through history.
That's cool.
Looking at all of these historical photos, and I felt like I was trying to follow in his footsteps through all of these black and white photos and finding his name here and looking to see if I could see his image here, which is because it felt like I was following a famous person.
Chasing
and so we were
soul.
at the USS Missouri. Yeah, it was just an amazing experience. And listening to him talk about this, I could talk about it forever.
Well, I hear that. You hear your reverence for him in your voice. And what's amazing is the reverence for his story was able to translate into your purpose and passion. Now, when you shifted and got into, blogging, I guess, in particular is what, catapulted you. Obviously, every great writer move into higher level media positions. Nobody's like, oh yeah, it was easy. So what were some of the struggles that you faced making that pivot and then along the way and just keeping at it? And why did you keep at it?
Well, I think that when I first got involved with it, I did my own website. I coded my own site, and this was back in like 2000. And I was anonymously criticizing media. And it was just a real smart aleck little blog, and it was mean. I was like a little dog yipping at all
you
these
hate the
newspapers.
most now, right?
Yeah, I know exactly. I was just going at them because I thought they were biased. I had a daily column and or weekly column in a big daily newspaper, and they got mad at me when I started talking about. It was a lifestyle column, and I started talking about firearms, and that was, I think, that was the first wall that I hit. I learned, I always knew that people kind of hated how I felt about certain issues, but they really hated how I felt when it was given space in newsprint, and they really went after me. And I was probably maybe like 24 at the time. They really went after me. And it was a big thing in St. Louis. And that's one of the, I was so aggravated. I never felt demoralized. I just got ticked off. And I thought the harder they push back, I'm just going to push doubly hard. I'm going to make them accept me because they have to. They're going to have to acknowledge me. And so that's what I wanted to do. I always thought, the best revenge is success. And so I feel vindicated now at this point, but I was going to fight tooth and nail to make them accept it. And I was really glad to see a lot of other like-minded people not really give up in the new media sphere,
right? Because
that's where everything's going. And that type of thinking runs it. So I'm pleased. I feel vindicated.
Well, it's pretty cool. It's like the fight came to you, right? And then you accepted it, and then because you were in that fight, Marcus talks about this, and he and I talk about this all the time, is that the only way you hone your skills is to get into battle and go to the fight. You can train and train and train. You can write as many drafts as you want, but it's when you put it out for that consumption that it's real. And so I hear,
right.
I hear
that's what locks it in.
What do you mean locks it in? What do you mean?
Drives it home. When you actually have to go out and you get into both sides of it, you experience it yourself, the good and the bad of it, your perception of it and your perspective of it is different. And
right.
I think people know that about her, and that's why you rely on somebody more when they say something.
Right. And I think too, you were talking about the ballet stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems frou-frou, but the ballet, I'm telling you what, that is some mental, there's a lot of stuff in Black Swan that's actually not far off, but it drains you physically and mentally. You have to be completely focused, and you're constantly judged, and it's an excruciating devotion. That's the only way I can put it. And I think I've always kind of been like that with stuff that I approach. And, for like my book and all that stuff, I didn't rely on researchers. I don't have a research team. I don't have a PA. It's just me and my husband. And we still, we have our kids, and, I enjoy what I do, and I just get very focused on it, and I think it sort of carried over into that.
Well, focus is a big deal for sure, and I think as you look at you, as you keep, your ascension keeps moving, as you as not only the commentator, but as disseminating new books, and I'm sure you're writing a new book, and you got new ideas coming out, and probably different other amazing things. And by the way, I really loved a lot of your coverage and working with Megyn Kelly, and I just thought you gave such a fresh perspective, a real perspective that, like you said, the middle of the country and a lot of other places weren't being heard. Actually, it goes all the way.
Yeah, no.
and that was cool. Do you feel like the fight, your greatest fight, is still ahead of you, though?
I think the fight is always here. It's just the privilege of living in a free society, and you have to constantly attend to it. I mean, that's a really weak homage to Jefferson, but I mean, it's, you can't really take a break. And I would never want to live in a society where I could. I always, that means you're, that means if you have problems, it means you're living. Well, if you have stuff to deal with, that means you live in a free society. So I mean, the fight is always going to be there, because it just takes one generation to screw everything up. You have safe space people and all this crap that's going on, but which I just can't deal with that. Participation trophy generation, whatever they call it. But it's just one generation is all it takes, and I don't ever want that on my conscience that I contributed to that generation where like my kids grow up and they ruin everything. But no, I mean I think the fight is always there. I don't know if I've been through the biggest battles yet. I mean, I've had some pretty serious stuff nothing close to what you guys have ever dealt with. But in a different ballpark that's down the road, maybe in another state. Right. I've had just some things that I've dealt with. But no, I mean, I think the fight is always there, which is good, because I enjoy the fight. There was one. I think it was Jackson that says, I'm born for the storm, a calm doesn't suit me. And that describes it pretty well.
That's it shows, when every time I see you, or, you're on your own show or listen to your radio show, you hear that fight in you, and you hear that desire to want to go get in there and preach your message. One of the questions I got for you, and Marcus and I are a couple knuckle draggers just getting into this whole thing, and do you ever get to a point where you're like, did I go too far? And I mean, do you ever have to deal with that because you're reaching so many people, or do you even consider that?
Every day, somebody, and I mean, I'm sure you guys hear this too with what you do. Every day, people say, "You've gone too far. You've gone too far." I mean, I don't judge other people's reactions as to whether or not I've gone too far. Before I even say anything or before I do anything, you can tell whether or not something, a thought or an idea, is it something I should say? Is it something? I mean, you can kind of weigh that out. But in terms of fighting for liberty and speaking the truth, you will never go too far speaking the truth. Cool. As long as you're speaking the truth, you don't ever have to worry. If the truth is on your side, there is no limit to how far you can go. And the only people that are telling you
Amen.
that you're going too far by speaking the truth, those are the people that just want to preach lies. And
yeah, they're the ones going the other direction.
I don't listen to those people.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's awesome. All right. Last question for you. And
I mean, that's what makes. I'm sorry. That's what makes y'all's job so important. I mean,
because where does the truth lay in the masses?
Exactly.
The military, we carry a weapon, we go out, we do our deal. I mean, if you got to understand, man, if something metastasizes in a bad way in what you do for a living, bring down the country.
That's what you're talking about.
Yeah, plain and simple. I mean, that's just bringing it down. So those of you that stand that line, that y'all's baseline. Keeping that Constitution, keeping the truth out there, and because it's, man, in the world y'all live in now, we all live in, with this social media, it's so easy to spin. Because
well, we just saw it.
You can spin something, and it just half the world will still believe it, no matter what, man. So those.
Right.
It's man,
and
that's
you
deadly.
hit on something super important. I think you hit on something super important, particularly with all this talk about fake news, because the journalism profession, journalism never began to be objective. I mean, Ben Franklin started the paper so he could talk smack about somebody under an assumed name. which is funny. But the thing is that people have to have pride and they have to have ethics. And I think there are some reporters out there, some journalists out there that do a pretty good job of making you guess where they stand politically. I should always wonder if someone is right or left. I shouldn't know. But the thing is, if they're going to be right or left, you at least be transparent about it. But the problem with media is that everybody wants to be first with something. They want to be first, not accurate. And then secondly, people want to be influencers more than they want to be distributors of truth. And that's a huge problem because you have a lot of individuals who are in news, who are in the news media, but they want to be players in the political system. And they want to be able to influence. They want to be close to power so that they can influence it and they can siphon off a little bit of that so that they can influence other people. And that's the problem because the reporter should never be the star of the show. In fact, the best stories, you should never know who the reporters are except to say that person wrote a really dang good story.
Right. It's almost like, in your world out there, Dana, everybody's trying to be more outrageous than the next person in some of the commentary they use. And it's like the news isn't the news. The news is how outrageous you can be. And it's really distorting that truth that is so critical for us. All right. So let's say there is a young person out there or a person working on a small town paper, a small town blog, or in social media or somewhere, and they're struggling. They're getting ready to quit, Dana, because they can't take, the lack of truth. They're getting ready to quit because they're tired of, how other people make things more fantastic just to be heard or seen or shown. What are the 2 or 3 things that you can tell that individual right now, right here in this show, to not quit?
Well, as fantastic in untruth and in spin as some of these people in media are going to be, one of the first things that people starting out in media need to realize is that they need to be equally as fantastic in truth. And you can be over the top with truth. You can shove truth in somebody's face, which is fun. In fact, it's great cardio. It's a lot of fun to do that.
I love it.
And new media gives them that platform to do it. They have a multitude of different ways that they can be over the top fantastical with truth. And that's one of the things you're going to have to do to break through the noise, because right now everybody likes, in absence of being able to convey graphics and headlines, people like to use over-the-top headlines as clickbait, just so they can get somebody in for 5 or 10 seconds on the page. Well, you can do that with truth. You need to be truthful, and you need to realize that your reputation, with one wrong story, there goes your reputation. And people are... America loves a good comeback story, and they love redemption. This is the second thing. But in media, there's almost zero redemption, particularly if you are of a certain mindset. There is no redemption for you if you screw up one time. So you got to stay in your game. The third thing is don't believe a damn thing that anybody in J school ever told you. They're all liars. They're all wrong. Don't believe a single one of them. And the Oxford comma is law. Oxford comma, that's a nerd thing. That's total law. But don't believe any of these J school professors, and don't believe any of the senior fellows at Mr. Jim whatever.
Is that why they're professors?
J school.
They were good journalists?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, don't believe any of these people.
Yeah,
these people like to stay in their tenured little classrooms, and they never get out to meet people. And the fourth thing, in order to actually write about people, you have to go out and be among them. You can't just sit in New York or LA in one of these skyscrapers and think that you're going to actually be able to be the Joe Mitchell of your time and tell the stories of your day. You have to go out and challenge yourself. Talk to people, tell the stories of the country, and the last thing, I think this is fifth. The fifth thing is to omit any ego. You cannot be a good journalist and have an ego, because if you do, that ego is going to get in the way of the story, and it is going to cripple your ability to write. It is going to cripple your ability to tell a good story. There are commentators a dime a dozen. There are people who can be journalists and they can be commentators, but then there are people who can really tell the stories, and we don't have enough of those people because everybody wants to be a television star. Everybody wants to have a contributor contract. But I tell you what, the people who tell the stories and showcase who Americans are and what we believe in, and you tell those things that New York and LA don't want to pay attention to, and you do it without being ironic or smart aleck about it.
I hate that.
That's the stuff that will weather the test of time.
Wow. I'll tell you what, Dana, your grandfather is probably incredibly proud of you, looking down on you right now. And
thank you, guys.
Those stories, I just think to myself how, an old man, an old vet's influence on a young woman has contributed heavily to shaping a consciousness, a modern consciousness of today. And I just appreciate you. I appreciate your tenacity, and just thank you so much for coming and sharing that all with us and our listeners.
Yeah, that was great. Thank you.
David, Marcus, thank you guys so much. Thank you guys so much for what you do. And I enjoy your podcast. I mean, you guys are a blast. And I love that you're out here doing what you do. You guys have such a great perspective on stuff. It's so fun.
Well, thank you so much. And we look forward to maybe getting you back on in the future with your next.
Would love to.
Awesome. Well, God bless you, Dana. Take care.
God bless you guys. Thanks so much.
You too.
Later.
Take care.
Dude, I'll tell you what. I hear those stories all the time about hanging out with Grandpa, hanging out with Uncle for War II. I never had that. Never had that.
Oh, yeah?
Never had somebody I could go and hang out and hear their stories like that until I got in the military, and then it made, it just made you appreciate it more. Did you have that growing up?
Yeah, absolutely. On both sides.
Really?
Yeah, multiple generations from uncles, everything. So I know exactly where she's coming from. It's kind of one that gets you fired up about being an American. But the whole time she was talking about that, I was just thinking, I was like, man, you know what it meant to have all them by his side listening to the story, right? As he's getting older,
and the vigil too.
That's all they got, really. Yeah. After you slow down, you don't move as well, and it tells you a lot about their family too. Those people,
that's what I was thinking
you don't ship
too.
them off, sitting them in homes, let them out there and rot. Man, they're at keeping the elders. We talked about this before. Yeah, keeping the elders around. It's a wealth of knowledge, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. Man, it's funny to hear it, and then sometimes it makes great sense, right? I mean, I missed that with my grandfathers too, man.
Did they used to bring you and Morgan around? You'd sit down in front of them. They'd spin a
couldn't wait to
spin the yarn, or what do you call it?
I had a couple of uncles and my godfather, man. When we'd see his truck out in the driveway as we were coming down the driveway, man, we run in there. He'd already be set up at the table, him and my father and stuff like that, telling stories. And this man, it didn't matter what he was talking about, right? And you just sit there and listen to, and just the detail, and the greatest part was he just had a story about every state, every city. And as I got older and started driving, I'd call him, I'd be lost, and I'd call my father or one of them.
Yeah.
Hey, I know exactly where you're at. And by the way, if you take a left on this road and go about 10 miles to the steakhouse down there, then you ain't gonna bleed. That kind of thing. They just know all of that.
Worldly knowledge, dude.
And that passed down. Just imagine the stories she's gonna be able to tell.
Unbelievable.
And she was spot on about those journalists who just stay up in the studios and report the news. Man, now that these guys can take that camera with them and be in the junk while it's going down and report it, and anybody can watch it, stand by.
You got to get hungry.
Yeah, you better be. Exactly.
Yeah. I dig that. I mean, I really love the fact too that I love her work ethic is just, that's why I pinged her on her gnarled feet from ballet, is because, the first time I saw a professional ballerina.
You'd be in trouble for that one.
No, God, Dana, I love you. I'm going
to stay in your ass on this one.
You better not. You better not. Listen,
don't worry.
It was a compliment.
Hopefully you can walk out of my house without being.
Because she does carry 2 guns on her.
Right.
Dude, when she said I'm packing double heat, I was like, well, that makes sense.
Right. Throw that leg up and kick.
Be like, wow. Did you hear what she said? She destroys all the men on leg days because she's got those answer. Like, that's awesome. Anyways, what was cool is that she took this event, right, this person, and was able to find that spark in her gut, her that created passion and purpose to become a great writer, become a top-notch blogger, to become a top-notch journalist, to become one of the top commentators in the world. And just from these stories. And I think that's what we do here on the Team Never Quit podcast, right? I mean, great stories ignite legends.
Right.
And so if you're listening, man, we just really want to thank you, and for all the success you're giving us, we just really appreciate it. But 2, man, you got a story in you. There's a story waiting to come out. If you believe in yourself, you're willing to have gnarled feet, you're willing to, shift focus and find purpose and that truth, right? That was the thing that was just that so poignant with what she was saying. is how important the truth is.
I thought that was good when she was talking about that. It's so true. If you think about it, man, if someone gets up there and starts hammering home the truth as hard as people hammer home this spin,
Yeah.
I mean, it'd cut straight through that.
Yeah, it totally would. Wow. Well, that's all we got on the Team Never Quit podcast, this show, this edition. If you want to know more about us, please visit our site at tnqpodcast.com. And when you get there, if you've got yourself an awesome story, please share it. We've got a share your story section. Leave a comment about your favorite story. And you know what? If you want to be on the go and want to be able to have Marcus and I and our amazing guests in your ear whenever you want, just go to iTunes, subscribe to our show, download our, and we'll be there when in your darkest hours and when the negative insurgency is just pounding the snot out of you. So I want to thank my family, my friends for getting me through hard times. I want to thank Marcus. I want to thank God Almighty for just giving me, everything I have in this life. Marcus?
And thanks to everybody who keeps bringing us back. Right, and that's the best part about this, and then the opportunity to hang out with these amazing people and hearing their stories. And Dana, thanks for coming on today.
Yeah, Dana, thank you.
And thanks to all my friends, family, and the good Lord above for letting me do this, man. I'm out.